So now we're going to take a look at the written work that was in this folder. And I think what I'm going to do, I have not proofread any of this. I did skim through it just to kind of see what it was and realize that some of this poetry and such was not, I did not type it into the computer for some reason, but I kept this. And I'm just going to read it. I think I'm going to shoot the camera up at myself while I do it, so you can kind of see my reaction. I will probably stumble across the words and that sort of thing as I read it, but hopefully you will enjoy it. And if not, hopefully you'll check out the other content section with the drawings or the stereograms. Okay, so I just picked up the first page off the top, and this says ElfQuest Rough. So I think this is a rough draft for, I guess this was either for a role-playing game supplement, or this was a background for a role-playing game I was going to run. I'm not even sure at this point, but it's a rough draft of something ElfQuest related. Now, ElfQuest is a series of comics by Wendy and Richard Pini. It deals with elves riding around on wolves. I'm oversimplifying it. Maybe I'll go into the background in another video, but Google it. It's really good. I really enjoyed that series, and as far as I know, this is the only ElfQuest related material in here, but I'll read it. Okay, so prologue. Warning, this book is being written after reading the first 5 books in the ElfQuest series. Okay, so I think I was planning to make an ElfQuest comic book, maybe. For lack of time, I am eliminating any historical notes found in those books. Any questions on the past history or the past history of the elves must prompt you to refer to those stories. The characters in this book are direct descendants of all tribes in these books, and I underline the word all. Their generation is the next after Ember's role of chief. Okay, so if I remember correctly, the main character of ElfQuest was Cutter, and his daughter's name was Ember, so this would be Ember's son or daughter. Okay, it's his son. Ridge Runner. Now, Ridge Runner is one of my favorite character names of all time for a fantasy series. Long story short, when I was sitting at my Grandma Valentine's house when I was a kid, I was playing Ultima, the first Ultima on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and my grandparents and family were talking in the background, and I usually don't pay that much attention, or maybe I hear it, but I was focused on my game. And I heard my grandmother talking about somebody and saying, he's a real Ridge Runner, that one is. And my ears caught on the word Ridge Runner, because at that time, I used to look for character names for my fantasy role-playing games. I used to go to the library and sit down with a dictionary and just go through it to find words that sounded cool to be names for role-playing games. And there was this name Ridge Runner that stuck out. And since then, or after I heard that and created many characters named Ridge, I ended up writing a 8th grade iambic pentameter story all based around this character named Ridge Runner, who climbs up a rocky cliff to chase a rainbow and jumps off to try to catch it, and of course falls through the rainbow because it's just created by mist of a waterfall, and falls into a pool. And I got a lot of praise, and my teacher asked me to put it into a journal. No idea what happened to that poem, or if I have a copy of it anywhere. But back to this. So Ridge Runner apparently at one point I thought was going to be the main character of my ElfQuest story. So he is Ember's son. Ridge Runner, son of Ember, chief of the Wolf Riders. He himself, I also didn't have the best handwriting. So hopefully I won't, okay, I know what it says. So hopefully I won't spend too much time apologizing for that. He himself, preferring running to riding, he can outrun most all of the wolves in the tribe. He is shorter than most, and that's because when I drew his picture, which I bet you is in here, I drew his proportion wrong, so he looks shorter than other elves. But, okay, so I put that into the story. Shorter than most in his clan, and much darker. He has a sinister look, but is truly good. One day, as he is scouting around, He comes up with a large dome-shaped structure that was never completed. The inside is very large and the earth is charred. After investigating, he discovers New Moon. So New Moon was the sword of the chief. Apparently it must have gotten lost in one of the stories. I don't quite remember. It quivers and it tells him the story of his past. Okay. And there's something written here in the margin. It says Dr. Une, which I think I made that name up as a mad scientist character in a Turtles role-playing game, but I'm not really sure. So back to the ElfQuest story. This might be pretty long, actually. Finally, after defeating Winnowill, all 4 tribes are together in the palace. Skywise discovers a strange powder mountain on the way home from the battle. He takes some, which falls into the fire and explodes. So, Skywise was another elf. He was kind of like the Ben Kenobi for the main character, I guess. Two Edge was a troll who was kind of their enemy, but they teamed up at one point. He was kind of a crazy guy in the shadows. Two Edge watches with a wicked look, but everyone else ignores it. Two Edge escapes and rallies the trolls to the mountain. He ignites it and claims revenge and wipes out all the trolls. Okay? Now the elves have no troubles. They discover the secret of the palace is flight, and they take off. Secretly, there are a few wounded trolls underground. They build a huge cannon under the castle. When it is taking off, they blow up the section the Wolf Riders are in. The rest of the castle is hurtled off over the sea. The Wolf Riders fall to the earth and wipe out the trolls. Cutter is killed, and Ember goes on to become the chief. Soon the past is forgotten. Now Ridge Runner must search for a path across the sea to find the castle. So the castle was like their spaceship. If you've played World of Warcraft, it's like the Exodar, actually. He is... Oh, interesting. Sorry, they wiped out the trolls. Ridge Runner must search for his path across the sea to find the castle. Daydreamer has no place. Daydreamer has no place. I don't know who Daydreamer is, but okay. They travel to the sea, and they find he is a sand shaper. He makes a bridge. It's a terrible journey for 2 months before they reach the middle. They meet the Aqua Elves, which are survivors when the castle crashed and adapted to water. So I don't know how much time it took for elves to evolve. But they met the Aqua Elves. And I don't think any of these other pages are the rest of that prologue. So that is it for that one. Well, I have a lot. I'm going to have to split this up into multiple episodes, but I'm excited if you're going to bear with me. All right, so the next one, I do vaguely remember this one, and I have a feeling I wrote this in my high school library, but I don't know for sure. It's on lined notebook paper, and there's some stuff scratched on the back. So let me just read here. It was the Christmas season, or the holiday season, should we say, as not to offend those who do not believe. The snow was just beginning to fall, not able to top the blades of grass, but able to turn Blacktop into the most dangerous of enemies. 4 boys sat in a sunken lounge, a newly constructed evergreen tree and wreath, both decorated with lights, seemed to give the only warmth to the room. Okay, I wrote this in my community college, and in between classes there was this big sunken pit area where people would just sit around on couches and watch MTV and such. So I must have written it while sitting in there. So this would have been 91 or 92. Newscasters droned on the television, completely ignored by thinker, dreamer, student, and writer. All 4 aware only of soft chair cushions and thick carpeting. The stone walls completed the almost sleepy scene by absorbing the soft light from the noble gas bulbs. And I had crossed out the word neon. The dreamer is joined by a lover, the student finishes his work, and the thinker is absorbed in neither. Only the writer is aware of the passerbys. He sits in jeans, t-shirt, and a baseball cap, and I'm pretty sure I would have been wearing a pink Circus baseball cap that I got from my best friend's parents when they came back from Vegas. But I thought it was the weirdest cap I could possibly have. And it was pink. A single playing card in his left breast pocket, the ace of spades, handled often enough to wear a hole in the middle of its glossy yellow face. So when I was in college, apparently this must have been freshman year, I was in the library and I checked out Stephen King's The Dark Tower series for the first time ever. And for whatever reason, I had a playing card, and I would sit and hold the playing card. I would hold the playing card in my hand like this. Actually, I guess it was something like this, right? And as I was reading, I would just kind of twirl it like this, so that my middle finger was always pinching it with my thumb. And that circular round motion eventually wore a hole in the middle of that playing card. And I used to kind of think that was somehow Dark Tower-ish, right? Angsty. And it was not a bullet hole in the card, but it was like this faded yellow card that reminded me of that story. So I used to just sit there and twirl this card around in my fingers. I don't think I would be surprised if anyone else in the world has ever done that. He sees the thinker join the passerbys on their journey to class. He knows he will be joining them soon, but does not feel anticipation. It is too quiet. Under soft voices and footsteps of the passerbys, he believes that he can hear the electricity flowing through the wires of the television. Beyond that, the steady wheeze of air flowing through the ducts in another part of the building. Now, I crossed out some stuff. And again, it looks like that's the end of that one. I'm just going to double check here. Yeah, so that's the end of that. What I crossed out is, but this advanced sense of nostalgia is, oh, I'm sorry. But this advanced sense of hearing is only one of the enhanced senses that he has, but of his non-apparent feelings, of his enhanced awareness, perhaps he should go back a time to the beginning of this knowledge. And then I crossed something out that says swollen leaves, dirty wet on cold cement. And that actually did make it into a poem on the computer at some point. So apparently I was setting this writer up to have some sort of enhanced senses as he was sitting there in his college gathering room. I don't know what you call that. It's not a foyer, but I crossed that out, and I guess I just left it to him observing his surroundings. Okay, this one is on a tiny little paper. This, I think, came from a little notebook that I used to keep my codes in for Kid Icarus and Metroid and other Nintendo games. And I think I ripped this sheet out and wrote 2 poems on it. So we'll start. This one's untitled. The leather band on his watch warms his wrist. His right leg is asleep. His shoulders are chilly. 2 discarded newspapers lie next to the plastic chair. This is the writer's corner at the back of the library, nestled snugly between window, wall, and bookshelves. From here he can hear children's giggles and a man's cough. Woman's whisper. In sun season, birdsong, and in winter he watches footsteps disappear. A snowflake slowly melts on the corner of his glasses, soon to drip onto his cheek. He decides to read. This was definitely written in the same college library, and the way the bookshelves were arranged, I used to sit, there was like a round plastic chair that I would pull from around the corner of the bookshelves and put in front of a window. So I had the bookshelves to my back, looking out the window. I was kind of in my own private part of the library. And I can vaguely remember the leather watch that I used to wear on my wrist.